Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is nutrition, and we're going to discuss how to eat during times of lowered activity. So with the coronavirus kind of scare going around, I have actually had people send in messages through email and social media asking how to eat when they were working from home as opposed to like going to the office to work, or if they were off work completely, and whether people can work out or can't work out, stuff like that. So just kind of with everything going a little bit crazy, what do they do? So I figured it was a good question because it is common, like with what's going on right now. So I train people all over the country via online clients, and there are people with gyms closing down, people with events being canceled. So I have a couple clients that I recently had to redo their workouts to actually have at-home workouts with either minimal equipment or no equipment. We had to switch to different training styles, different training structures, focuses. So we've had it has had an impact. So I live in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is a small town for what I'm used to and what would be considered small towns. So it's not like a big city like New York City or Detroit or Chicago, big places like that. But so it hasn't necessarily, I'd say, like touched us yet in regards to the businesses starting to close down, but it is just starting to happen kind of now. So, but I have seen it happen with online clients who live in bigger cities and bigger areas. So I've seen it with like some of my European clients. They've been having issues for weeks now already with things being different, like either food supplies or training supplies, stuff like that. So let's get into the nutrition aspect. Is what do we do with our food when we're not being as active in general, and or not being able to work out with the same type of weighted resistance as we usually can? And the reason why that's kind of important is if somebody works out every day, but it's body weight like push-ups, pull-ups, like even if they're very aggressive, weird variations of push-ups, and no matter what kind of difficult pull-up you want, but none of that will create as much muscle damage as like a 500-pound squat or 500-pound deadlift or 400-pound bench press. So even if you're active every day with at-home workouts, you still will not be able to produce as much muscle damage as if you're doing typical resistance-based workouts. So therefore, like protein demands are lower, carbohydrate demands are different. So there are some nutritional changes that happen even if somebody's active, but just the type of active they are changes. So the first thing I want to do is to remind everyone in podcast 390. So way back in podcast 390, we talked about proper nutrition for sedentary workers. So this would be people who don't have very active daily life, but they would still work out. So you can go check out that podcast for more details, other than just what I'm going to explain in today's podcast. And it would actually give you really good kind of base information that would add to the information you're being presented today. So in general, what we talk about in that podcast is even if somebody's sedentary, where they're not very active, so they don't have a very active work life or day life, so they just kind of sit on their butt, do computer stuff all day, then want to work out later. Even in sedentary workers, they still require about 70% of their normal caloric intake to just stay alive and be healthy. So that number is debatable, and there's some variables at the wazoo that deal with that number. But in general, we still need calories to stay alive. So just because someone isn't physically active or they're sitting on their butt doesn't mean they shouldn't eat. So at that time, somebody had asked me a question, and they said, since they were a sedentary worker, should they just kind of like not eat until noon? So their plan was like for an evening workout was just skip all food until noon, eat something for lunch, then eat a bigger kind of mid-afternoon snack, and then go work out and eat most of their food later in the day. And we said, and the answer to that was no, because even like once you wake up, your body requires calories. Your body requires calories while you're sleeping, by the way. So, but once you're awake and you start moving around, your body needs calories. So even if you're just sitting on your butt using the computer, you're still up. You're awake, your brain's active, meaning it's burning off glucose, it's using energy. Your muscles are holding you upright from falling over out of the chair. So they are active, even though we don't think of it that way. So there's still about a 70% caloric need for sure. And like I said, it's all debatable. But make sure, even in times of lowered activity, that you maintain at least 70% of your normal caloric needs. Otherwise, you're going to start to kind of have lower energy. Your metabolism is going to get slow. You're going to feel like crap. Your mood's going to go swing like downhill. So the body itself just kind of doesn't run well. And when it doesn't run well, our brain doesn't run well, we don't feel well. So make sure you still eat about 70% of your calorie needs. So that's going to help out a lot. Now, if you're going to work out, even if you can't do heavy resistance workouts, you're just going to do body weight based stuff, you still want to put more of your daily calories around your workout. So it's still kind of the same rules we would normally have. Is everything's the same, it's just a little bit tighter on the details. So we still want to eat less when we move less. Meaning at times of the day that I'm not active, I still need to eat, but I don't need as many calories as times of the day I'm about to be active. So if somebody does work out, like say they're off work and they want to work out like a twice a day workout, great, that's fine. So you can do that. So eat before the workout, eat after the workout, eat a little bit less in the middle, then eat before the next workout, eat after the next workout, then eat a little bit less after that. So you would almost have like 2 caloric spikes in your day that were associated with the 2 workouts. So it still kind of fits the same role that we're looking for, is our meal timing doesn't change. So we've talked about meal timing, and if you haven't checked out the podcast, let's see here, let me get the right number for you. Okay, number 249. So if you have not listened to podcast 249, please go listen to that now, because that's going to give you a ton of information on meal timing. And podcast 329 talks about meal frequency. So how that can be useful. Whether you eat 1 meal a day or 5 meals a day, it does make a difference. It doesn't necessarily always make a difference in weight. So you can lose weight or gain weight regardless of the frequency of meals, but you might feel better. You might have less body fat, kind of like compositional changes that you don't want if you eat more frequently. So having more frequent meals and the right timing of the meals makes an enormous difference, not only on the results of weight change, but also on performance and also on how you feel in moods throughout the day. So go check out podcast 249 and 329 if you have not checked those out yet. So meal timing is still the same. So if we're not as active as we usually are, we still need to eat. And you still want to eat a little bit less, and what I mean by less or more is if you were, say, to have 2,000 calories in a day, and you're having it over 5 meals, it's 400 calories per meal on average. At the times you're less active, you might only eat 300 calories. At the times you're more active, you might eat 500 calories. So what I mean by more or less is more or less than the average of what your meals would be. So if you don't know how many calories you're supposed to have, we do have that. Podcast is number 153. So we talk about, that one's titled, How Many Calories Do I Need? So literally it answers that question. So 153. So you would know like what your normal caloric amount is. And if you don't count calories, it's fine. What's your normal volume? What is the normal amount of food that you eat? At times when you're less active, eat slightly less than that. So if you normally have, say the amount of carbohydrates that looks like the size of your fist, have a little bit less than that when you're not active. When you're about to be active, like right before a workout, have a little bit more than that fist. So you can count calories, or you can just go by portion control. I personally like portion control. It's harder to learn over long term. In the short term, it's harder to learn, and there's more gray areas and like rights and wrongs and kind of stuff. But you can learn it and use it for the rest of your life, rather than always counting macros and not having a damn clue why the numbers are what they are, and still wondering why you don't feel good or things don't work the right way, because you're kind of memorizing numbers rather than memorizing what's actually happening. So that's what we would look at. So still eat less when you move less, eat more when you move more. Kind of normal. Protein, we talk about protein being between 0.6 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And this would be roughly about lean body weight. So if somebody's 300 pounds, but they're really, 200-pound person with 300 pounds on them, so they have 100 pounds of fat, we wouldn't want to eat to the 300 pounds. You'd want to eat to lean mass. So one of the ways you can think of that is, okay, maybe I weigh 240, but typically I think around 200 would be a good weight for me. I think that's when I would look healthiest. Then you would just eat for 200. Okay? So there's more science to it, but that's pretty damn accurate in the long run, just doing that by that. So protein is 0.6 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now, like we said, if you can't lift as heavy as you normally do, you can bring that protein down. So if you typically average about 1 gram per pound, you can bring it down to 0.8. If you typically average 0.8, you can bring it down to 0.6. If you're not going to be active lifting weights, you definitely need to be down by 0.6 because you're not going to have any muscle damage to repair. So it kind of depends on what you're doing with your break. So if you have less work, but that means you're going to do a twice a day kind of workout routine, then you might need to actually increase your protein because you're going to cause a lot of muscle damage. So protein should follow muscle damage, not activity levels. If what you're doing is highly active, but it doesn't cause muscle damage, you don't really need a lot of protein. If what you're doing is maybe just working up the one all-out max effort set of like squats, and that might only take 20 minutes, but that's pretty damn aggressive on the body and it tears up a lot of structures, the person might need a lot of protein after that. So again, protein should follow your muscle damage, not your activity level. If what you're doing could damage the muscles and make them sore, and it's kind of like bodybuilding type stuff. So we've talked about in a bajillion podcasts about kind of time under tension, and if something is done for like 10 seconds or less, that's kind of a showing of strength. 10 seconds to 20 seconds kind of develops strength itself. 20 seconds to 40 seconds within that range kind of builds muscle, even up to 60 seconds, depending on how you do it in certain ways. So if what you're doing is heavily weighted, and say it takes 30 seconds or less, it's probably going to cause muscle damage and at least structural damage. So even if something's super heavy for just a 1 rep max, that might not be enough time or attention to really develop a lot of muscle mass, but it's definitely a lot of stress on connective tissues. So having protein according to your muscle damage and kind of structural damage levels is how you want to think of it. So again, whatever your normal average is, if you're not doing as much muscle damaging activity, bring it down. If you're doing more because you're actually doing like 2 days or something, then push it back up. Okay? Now, carbs versus fats. A good general rule is if I'm low active, then I want to eat mostly fats with my proteins. If I'm high active, I want to eat carbohydrates so it digests quickly and my body can use it right away. So fats, since they digest very slowly, they're a great kind of slow, sustainable fuel source when we're not being super active. So fats when you're not active, carbs when you are active. So it's basically the exact same rules as we would normally have. However, we're just kind of adjusting to what the new situation is. So if we're less active and less muscle damage, I don't need as many calories overall. I can bring my calorie count down. I can bring my protein count down, and I can focus more on fats than carbs. If with all this time off, I'm going to do double like workouts, or I'm going to work out more intensely, then you might need to bring your calories up, your protein up, and focus mostly on the carbs rather than fats. So it's hard to predict who is going to do what when it comes to these kind of circumstances. But those are the general concepts we look for. Okay? Now, if you have a specific case that you listen to today, but you still have a couple questions here or there, just email us. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. So if you want some more specific information to your needs, just let us know what your specific situation is, and we'll help you out. Okay? We can help with just a general answer for a question, or we can help write a program, anything you need, so we can use the most get the most out of the time that we have. So, some things that come up in situations like this. How do I prevent overeating? So when I'm not active and I'm not as busy as usual, people will most often kind of replace that boredom with food. Horrible response. It's just going to make you fat. It's going to make you feel bad about yourself. You're not going to like anything. So it's not going to go well. So the best thing to do is be busy. Get a hobby. Try something new. Whatever you got to do. Get off your butt and go do something. So they say idle hands are the devil's playground. Well, idle mouths will fill themselves. So get busy. Go do something. Pick up a hobby. Whatever you got to do. Just find a puzzle. Read a book. Anything. So the more busy you are, the less you will think of food. The other thing you can do is set predetermined meal times and say, hey, I'm just going to stick to my regular meal times. I normally eat at, say, 6 a.m., 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., 6 p.m. So I'm just going to continue to eat at those times. Regardless of what I'm doing, regardless if I'm bored to death, I'm just still going to eat at my normal times. That's a great idea. The other thing is to share the experience. So find a partner, okay, or friend, and just say, hey, I'm struggling. I really want to freaking eat everything in the closet, or the cabinet. Would you mind helping me? And you both can kind of complain about being hungry and how stupid everything is in life. but you can at least do it together, and that can sometimes help kind of keep you away from it. Okay? So those are some ideas for preventing overeating. The best one by far is just be busy, go do something, get an activity. Okay? Then people start asking, what about immune system? What can I eat to help my immune system? Really, it's sleep is going to be the biggest factor. So get as much sleep as you normally should. Get proper calories. Make sure you have enough calories. So don't severely undereat, because that will compromise the fuel that your body has to run its immune system off of. So make sure you have the proper calorie count. Then make sure you have your multivitamin, a daily multivitamin, and a bunch of vitamin C. That's pretty much the best you're going to do. So there are other more specialty type supplements out there. And if you are doing these 4 things first, so again, sleep, proper calories, multivitamin, vitamin C, if you're doing all of those correctly, and then you want to add something to it, great. But don't add anything if you're not doing one of those 4 first, because they have the most bang for the buck. So if you're sleeping like crap or you're skipping meals, don't try taking some advanced supplement that you think is going to fill those gaps for you. So make sure you get the basics right, and then add the fancy stuff on top of that. Okay? So hopefully this was helpful. I can't give you a ton of specifics because everybody's going to respond to these situations differently. But we are offering, if you email us, we'll give you the specifics once you tell us what your specific case is. So again, you can reach out via email, brutalironjim@gmail.com, and we'll help with any specific questions you have. But overall, not much changes. Okay? So meal timing is still the same. Eat more when you move more. Eat less when you move less. You can move your protein up or down based on what kind of muscle damage activity you're doing. And eat more fats when you're less active, and eat more carbs when you're more active. That's the goal. Okay? So if you have any struggles or any worries or concerns, reach out to us and we'll help. Other than that, hopefully this kind of helped to kind of calm things down and recognize that not much changes. So we just have to kind of stick to the same rules. We just have to change our rules at this moment to what we're doing at this moment. So if you're changing your lifestyle, you're going to change how you respond food-wise. So we're just adjusting the normal stuff to what you're doing now, your new normal. Okay, so again, if you need anything, please reach out. Don't freak out, don't stress, don't have anxiety over this stuff. So if you need help to calm yourself down and to not worry, reach out to us and we can help with that. Okay, so again, the email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. So thank you for listening, and I hope this was helpful in some way. And if you need anything else, please let us know. Cool. Okay, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. So the people who are sending these in, like these kind of emails and stuff and questions that we asked about today, awesome. Thank you so much. It's awesome to know that people are listening, and I appreciate the interaction. So thank you very, very, very much. And you can always kind of send your requests or anything to our email, brutalironjim@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.